Bonjour Penguins and welcome to Pat Pank's Cast, the show that dives you into the world as I see it. I'm Patrick, your host, and today we're on a mission to unearth the hidden gems of Paris. Because let's face it, even the Mona Lisa has a secret stash of cheese somewhere in the Louvre. From mysterious alleyways to tucked away courtyards, get ready to discover the city's best kept secrets. Grab your magnifying glass and let's go on a treasure hunt through the streets of the City of Light. Stay tuned. Bonjour, and welcome to this episode, Paris Undercover or Paris Unveiled, Hidden Gems. You choose. So today, we're going to be discussing things that you don't see right away, but are as interesting as the big monuments and the huge streets and the famous restaurants, etc. And probably even more interesting because this is where the Parisians go and this is where it's actually more charming because it's more authentic. Whether it's gardens, passages, museums, restaurants, bars, landmarks, even though they are not huge landmarks, but this is the point of this episode, right? So Marie is back with us today. Ghislain is also back. And we also have Louis. So let's start by the first topic we want to hit, which is the gardens. Let's talk about the small parks that we have in Paris. The first one being Louis, the Square du Var-Galant. Can you tell us more about it?
Yes, exactly. It's like a small square on the Pont Neuf, on the Cité Island. So it's a very nice little garden, especially in the summer. You can sit there with your friends by the water and, I don't know, just have a picnic or like a drink. And it's a very nice place that I recommend. And you have great views on the Saint-Maritain as well, which I think you have discussed in your one of your previous episodes.
Yeah, in the episode of the Paris Luxueuse for the Grand Magasin or the department stores. Exactly.
It's exactly also like a postcard landscape. It can be very busy during the weekends. I recommend to go there during the weekdays. And yes, like when it's sunny because it's very enjoyable.
Okay. The second suggestion we have, I have, is a very peaceful, small green square in the 13th district called Square des Peupliers. It's really nice. It features a tree-lined path. It also has gardens and benches for relaxation and so on. It's very, relaxing, and it's a kind of a retreat away from the bustling city. It is part of my favorite spots when it comes to small local gardens. There's also something called le Jardin des Rues des Rosiers. Louis, you know about it as well, I guess. It's in the Le Marais, right? In the 4th district.
Yes. Yes, this is a very nice garden, like very hidden. You need to go through a door, which looks like a door that you would take in order to get into a regular building. But then inside, you have like some wild greenery. And you have also like some more like made by gardeners. And you also have like play areas for children. It's very quiet and very hidden, so very romantic if you are like with your partner in life. Maybe. It's very romantic.
You're right. What I like about this one is that you're in the middle of Le Marais, which is a very busy neighborhood. And then all of a sudden, as you said, you just walk by a door and then you found yourself in this peaceful Jardin des Rues des Rosiers. Ghislain, you have something called le quartier La Campagne à Paris that you mentioned.
That's a place that I know very well. I'm born in this district, the 20th.
Which is the 20th.
It's the 20th. Yeah. It's a very nice area. It is, as you said, the Paris of the Parisians, so it's a bit out of the basically tourist aspects. But it's nice to see this area. It's a very small couple of streets, village in a way. The concept was something like late 19th century, early 20th century. They built little houses for middle class mostly, and they made this sort of little village so people would have kind of a community to be together. It's quite isolated. You go to the metro station Port de Bagnolet, and out of it you walk a few steps. You have actually a big staircase, so it's worth it going up, and you are next to the périphérique. You normally have lots of roads and lots of noise. When you arrive inside, you're like in a very quiet place. It's a cute area. It's very delicate. It's not low class anymore. I mean, having a house in Paris is not that accessible, but it's beautiful, really.
a house in Paris is already something very exceptional.
And same having a garden, because these houses, some of them have a garden. You usually have a house
That's
with
the best.
different levels plus a garden.
Plus a garden.
Even if it's a mini garden from which you can have your own trees, plants, whatever. So it feels like you have your own area.
Inside, within the limits of the city of Paris,
Exactly.
which is, exceptional. Okay, cool.
And you can have also your own swimming pool.
Oh, really?
That would be quite a luxury.
Like, these are your friends?
No, so
Can we meet
my
them?
Can
friend,
we meet them?
For sure.
I will introduce him to you. Don't worry.
Yes, please. Okay, perfect. So these are the few recommendations on gardens that we have. Now, Paris is also known for something called les passages.
The passageways.
The
I
passage.
think some of the books that I read, they called it covered passageways.
Okay.
Because they're covered and they have been made historically for one reason. In Paris, it rains.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you need to have some passages in which you will be doing shopping without having a problem of the rain. So you're just walking by, having little boutiques since the 19th century, because some of the passageways, they existed since the 1820s, 1830s. And the idea was having a clean floor,
Yeah.
not a wet one, from which you would just do your shopping, waiting for the rain to stop. And then you'll buy a few things and you get off. And it became quite trendy because there were about 100 in the city. Now today there are many less, I would say, something like 20, 30 passages. But it's quite something, I would say.
Okay, do you have some of them that in mind to recommend?
There are two areas, mostly in the Grand Boulevard area. If you know the Musée Grévin, which is the wax figures museum, in this
Sword
area,
wax,
there are like 3 passages going one after the other. They're like created as if you would make your own promenade, walking from one passage to the other. So you have to cross sometimes streets and be exposed to the rain, but anyway, one passage
okay.
after the other, it's okay, it's fine.
It's fine.
And they all have their own speciality. So there are 3 places. The first one is called the Panorama, because there was a huge panorama area in which you would have some sort of, it's the ancestor of the cinema or some of the, I would say, special effects things, but from 19th century. And in this area, you would have some boutiques and restaurants mostly. Have nice restaurants, and you can eat within the passage because they make their own terrace indoors, so you can have nice things, and you can actually have some foods very internationally, because you have some Indian food, Chinese food, Japanese food, French bistro. So every community could have their own selection. Then you move on, crossing to the Musée Grévin, and you arrive to the Passage Geoffroy. This one is a bit more chic, I would say. You have some more elegant boutiques. I remember that you have some kind of an old umbrella boutique. So you have like vintage umbrellas from which you have ivory ornaments, wood ornaments. It's very, very original. You have some minerals you can buy. You have an old bookshop at the corner. You have a little staircase in this passage,
wow.
which is extremely interesting. If you're into art, into history, definitely go there, because you will find some books which are rare to find. So it's nice. And then you cross the last passage called Verdot. And this one is the quietest of them all, I would say. You have some more little cafes in which you can just have a moment in a quiet place and take your time. So it's a nice area. There's a second area in which I would definitely recommend, which is more touristy. It's next to the Palais Royal, and there are 2 galleries, we call them. So whenever you have the word gallery instead of passages, it just means it's a passage, but a more luxury one. So it's more chic. Yes, it's just a question of vocabulary they used. And you have Galerie Vivienne and Galerie Colbert. They are all making the angle, which means it's a very basic shape of the passage. They all had boutiques, but they were historically competitors. In the 19th century, the boutiques were competing one to the other, and the passages tried to get the more people coming and passing by these galleries. And Galerie Vivienne was more successful, I would say. So they had a lot of people, and the gallery is still today a very important place because many people came there and had a lot of great boutiques. You had some fashion shows made by Jean-Paul Gaultier, Kenzo. So it was quite a very hit spot, I would say, in the city, whether the Galerie Colbert was a bit abandoned at some point, and it was taken by the Sorbonne University. And today, it's not a passage with boutique anymore. It depends to the National Institute of Art History of the Sorbonne University. So people have classes.
So what do they do there?
Classes. You have classes, lectures, workshops, and seminars. And you can actually walk by. There's like a security at the entrance. You show your bag. You can get in. It's free. And there's a beautiful glass dome in which the light comes in. It's very elegant, very well preserved, and completely restored. So I really recommend the spot.
Oh, wow. What I liked is actually that every single passage or passage has its own vibe or own clientele or own kind of activity. So it's really
an identity, which is different for
identity.
each.
That's the word I was looking for. So yeah, it's interesting. Cool. Well, then it's a must see, depending on what you like to do, or you can even do them all. I mean, at some point, it's not that it doesn't really take a lot of time, right? Especially that you said that they are all within the same area approximately, and they are connected. So
it's walking distance.
Yeah, perfect. Louis, you had some suggestions about museums, right?
Yes, exactly. So first of all, I would recommend the Musée de Montmartre, which is the Montmartre Museum on the Butte. So this is actually one of my favorite museums in the city because it's just a small museum. I don't know, it's very romantic, and in the summer, it's just the best place to be. It's quiet in the morning, and there is like a little tea room or coffee place where you can enjoy a tea or a coffee in the morning in the garden, and you can see down the hill where they grow the grapes to make the wine of Montmartre. So this is also a very historical place. So it's a museum, but it used to be the workshop where Renoir and Suzanne Valadon used to make their paintings. So you can actually visit this workshop with pieces of furniture that were bought and put in place in this workshop. And you can also visit the museum where it tells the story, the history of Montmartre. So you can see old posters from the 1850s, 1870s. You can see stories about the Moulin Rouge, all the cabarets from those times. You can see many pieces of furniture, many other pieces of art from this period.
Okay.
It's just like an experience because you get to see an historical place and you get also to be told about the history of Montmartre. It brings you really into this period of time. So the late 19th century. And so if you really want to know more about the story of Paris, I think it's a very must-see museum. Mm-hmm. And also it's not a well-known museum.
Yeah.
So it's small. There might be a lot of people there, but it's still small and it's not very well-known. So, and especially if you want to have a coffee or like a tea in a very original green and quiet place, you should do it in the morning during the weekdays, or even in the morning in the weekend, because I did in the morning during the weekend.
I don't think it's going to be ever like very crowded neither, even if you will have some people at some point, but it will never be full, these kind of places. It's really not known.
But so when I was there with a friend, so we were there in the morning because I wanted to the least crowded as possible. But it's true that in the afternoon, many people were starting to arrive, especially in the coffee house area.
But we're talking about it's a whole different story than comparing to the Louvre, for example.
Yes, no. It's more like a romantic museum and very Parisian, and it's not like a huge institution like the Louvre. It's less, I think, exhausting.
Of course.
Just like you visit Montmartre, you visit the museum, you grab a coffee or a tea there, or even some food, and then you enjoy the gardens, which are very beautiful. A full morning, a full day with the rest of Montmartre.
With the restaurant and Montmartre and so on, you should just visit this part of the city and the hill of Montmartre, and there you go.
Exactly.
You have your program for the day. Okay, thank you for this insight, Louis. Now, if you want to talk about things to go out, like cafes, restaurants, and bars, there are two places that I wanted to mention. One of them is called the Épicier, which is Oriental, kind of like North African, which is actually hidden. And in order to get in, you have to click on a box, like a couscous box. There is a button on this couscous box that is really like you cannot see it. You push this button and then there's this whole door that opens and then gives you access to the cafe where they can serve you tea, where you can have like, it's very small, but it's very interesting. The whole concept. And another concept is called Lavomatique, which is a laundry room. You get in and it's actually an operational one. Everything looks perfectly normal until you go and click on a button on one of the washing machines, and then the whole thing will open as well, and it gives you access to a hidden bar where they serve all kinds of different drinks and so on, and the atmosphere and the ambiance is really nice. So yeah, I like these places. One last thing about restaurants, we all know the Madeleine Church, which is a huge, beautiful church by the Madeleine area, close to the Place de la Concorde. And underneath this Madeleine Church, there is a restaurant, a very hidden one, not known at all. But the particularity of this restaurant is that the meals that are served in this restaurant are meals cooked by very known chefs, sometimes even with a Michelin star. It's a cooperation restaurant, so all the benefits go to charity or people in need. So the cause is really very noble. And you get also a good service and good food because the food is done by a very skilled chef. So I would definitely recommend that. Marie, we haven't heard you yet a lot on this podcast, so the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you. And I have many things to say, actually.
Yeah.
So there are two restaurants I'd like to talk about. The first one is Les Frigos. Well, it's not really Les Frigos, actually. It's called La Cantine de l'Aiguillage, but with my friends, we say Les Frigos. And the other one, it's actually quite close, is Le Quai de la Photo. So, Les Frigos, let me tell you the story. So, it's an old refrigeration building. It's really hard to say refrigeration.
Yeah. Refrigeration.
Yeah, anyway, you understood what I meant.
Yeah, definitely.
And it was built in the 20s. Please note that a refrigeration building...
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, thank you. Is not a factory producing refrigerators. Because the refrigerators, they were marketing in France beginning of the 50s, I think. Yeah. A refrigerated building, as its name suggests, it's a warehouse where perishable goods are stored and refrigerated. Mm-hmm. So this one was created by the Paris to Orléans Railway Company to store food and particularly meat for the market of the Halles. So now the market of the Halles doesn't exist anymore because we have Rungis that was created in the 70s. So in the 70s, the Rungis market opened and this warehouse closed. Yeah. So it became an industrial wasteland, and in the 80s, artists and craftsmen moved in because the soundproofing and thermal insulation were excellent. So actually it was really interesting for artists to move there. And in the 2000s, the city of Paris bought the site and officially transformed it into an artist studios. And on the ground floor, there's a restaurant, which is called Les Cantines de l'Aiguillage or La Cantine de l'Aiguillage. It's open only for lunch on weekdays. Well, in my opinion, the meals are incredible. It's a very intimate space. And you lunch actually in the middle of an exhibition, and it costs maybe 20 euros or something. So it's really affordable.
Oh, nice.
Art and food.
Yes.
What else do we need? Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And the second restaurant is Le Quai de la Photo. So it's still on the theme of art and food because it's two things I'm passionate about. Mm-hmm. So the Quai de la Photo is actually an art center which is floating on the water, and it opened last year in July. So the exhibitions are always free, and actually I discovered it because Martin Parr was exposed there a few months ago, and I followed that artist, so that's how I heard about it. So you can eat or have drinks there, and I believe that the food is really good. The menus cost around 20 to 25. And what I love about this place is that the entire side of the boat on the Seine is made of bay windows. Mm-hmm. And actually there are small wooden boats floating alongside the restaurant tables. So you feel as if you're having lunch on the water. So that's really nice. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Beautiful.
Mm.
It's in the 13th district.
Yes, exactly. Both of them. Yeah.
Both of them in the
Yeah.
13th.
Yeah.
We have a lot of things actually today suggested from the 13th district.
Yeah.
Louis, you had a couple of suggestions when it comes to restaurants or clubs or bars.
Yes, so one of my favorite places to have lunch or have a drink is Le Tout Paris, which is at the top floor of the Cheval Blanc Hotel. This hotel is a luxury hotel and it's in the same building as the Samaritan department store. In order to get to the top floor with the restaurant Le Tout Paris, you need to get into the lobby of the hotel, which is very magnificent, and you have like beautiful pieces of art that I recommend to check out. And then you take this beautiful elevator that brings you to the floor of the restaurant, and then you get into this restaurant, which is very beautiful, with a beautiful bar, with beautiful little balconies, with the most beautiful view I have seen of Paris so far for restaurants, because you get to see the Pont Neuf, you get to see the Square du Vergalan, which we talked about, you get to see the Seine, and you get to see the Eiffel Tower. And especially the sunset.
The sunset.
It's very beautiful, yeah, the sunset. So the menus are made by chefs, and they just obtained their first Michelin star. So it's supposedly a very good restaurant. And yes, you can drink all kind of drinks from the bar, and you have a big wine card. And also at the back of the restaurant, there is like a door which leads to the exterior of the restaurant, and it's like hidden rooftop, so very hidden from the crowd, so kind of nobody knows about it actually so far. And you have views on Montmartre on one side, and views on the Louis Vuitton headquarters on the other side. There is a lot of greenery, a lot of space. It's very enjoyable. So this is definitely one of my favorite places in Paris. Not very well known, so
No.
hidden gem.
Okay.
If you want like a less crowded bar with a dance floor, sometimes during the weekdays, I will recommend the bar of the Plaza Athénée, which is a palace in Paris. This bar is less crowded. The service is on top. When you get into this bar, you get a wow feeling, because this is like the interior design of the place is just amazing. I know actually the director of the bar of this hotel, and he told me a lot about it, about the history of the place. I can assure you that there you will not wait for your drink, and the service will be the best, because it's a palace,
Okay, so this was it concerning bars, restaurants, and clubs, and these kind of places where we go out. Now let's talk about some landmarks or some just places of interest, like we say. So Marie, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. I have one recommendation, which is the Coulée Verte. It's actually an old railway line that goes through Paris, the east of Paris, from Bastille to Vincennes. It's underground in the air with tunnels, footbridges, and viaducts. So it dates back to the mid-19th century and was in use for just over a century. And beginning of the 90s, the city of Paris began a major rehabilitation operation. So more than 5 kilometers of it is now entirely pedestrianized, so you can walk on it. In my opinion, it's a slightly hidden spot that Parisians love to stroll along, take a lunch break, or just go for a run. It's not really well known because it's hidden away, but actually it's a very popular spot with the locals. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of trees, flowers, and I believe it's a real breath of fresh air in the middle of the capital.
Yeah, I've been there. It's really nice.
On the same subject, the Petite Ceinture in the 18th arrondissement is also a former railway line that has also been restored. And there are 2 places to visit there, actually. The Hasard Ludique and the Recyclerie, which I highly recommend.
What is the Hasard Ludique? I know it. Le Hasard Ludique, it's like some sort of
but I'm not sure there's a restaurant.
Event place or something.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Yes, I've been there.
It's a restaurant there. It's a cultural center.
Yeah.
With events, concert, and there is a restaurant and a bar there. Yeah.
Exactly. I've been there. Yeah. It's really nice. I remember it was really nice. Okay.
And they do some markets in the summer over there, like on the train tracks. They do some markets
Yes.
in the summer.
Yeah.
And so it's very nice in the summer. I know that there are a lot of families chilling, even at La Recyclerie.
True.
There are a lot of family events, and these two places are kind of similar. They try also to have products that are local to the Paris area. And usually, yeah, it's kind of healthy food and healthy drinks.
Correct.
And there are events all the time.
I really recommend these places. I remember I've been there, and in summer especially, obviously, because this is where you get to be outside and also by the rails. So definitely something to do when you have time. Okay, let's move to other landmarks. Ghislain, you had some other recommendations?
I have one place that I like that actually I think everyone knows without really paying attention. It's the Saint-Jacques Tower, the Tour Saint-Jacques, as we say. That place, we know it for years. I've known it since I was born. I've known it a lot in restoration because it took a lot to restore the place. It's super clean, it's beautiful. But if we just think a little about it, we realize it's a tower alone in the middle of the garden at Châtelet, which is the center of Paris. So it has no reason to be there if you don't realize there's a story behind it. And what is really nice is just to go back to like over half a millennium away, and you just realize 500 years ago there was a big church at the time, which is the Saint-Jacques Church, basically, which makes sense totally. It was on the route to Saint James, Saint-Jacques is Saint James of Compostelle. So it was a holy route that people would took, and the pilgrims would go there, and they would stop potentially in this church, and this was the bell tower of the church. But the thing is that we have this beautiful bell tower of the Gothic style. You have to imagine a huge church in this area. And with the French Revolution and with the transformation of the 19th century, the church was transformed, destroyed. Stone after stone, they've been used for other purposes, but remained more or less intact. The tower, the bell tower, without any bell anymore.
Yeah.
And what we know is that in the 19th century, with I think Napoleon III, the idea was to create new gardens. We were hoping having more gardens in Paris. It's important to have some green. So they made some green in the center of Paris around this tower to kind of reveal the tower. And it became kind of a landmark view, things for people to enjoy the city. And everyone passed by. People could go, grab a sandwich and
just like stay there next to the tower,
next
in
to
the
the
park
tower.
around the tower.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
And before the restoration, it was absolutely impossible to get inside. So it was like, there's something you don't get in, but you just walk around it.
It's just there.
It's just there. It's part of the city. It's part of your landscape, and this is it. And when they restored it, I think it was like 4 years ago, they finalized it, and there's a private association that is organizing some private tours, which means you have some guided tours, and you go step by step, is the way to say it, because you go up. There's no lift, so you really have to just be a bit sporty, and you get to the top of it. And I felt not only it's interesting because it's, when you know it, even when you don't know it, it's a nice place to go there because it's a historic landmark. But more than this, I think there's no other place like that when you can go that high in the center of Paris.
Exactly.
And
the view must be just amazing.
The view is fabulous. On your back, you have the Pompidou Center. In front of you, you have the Sainte-Chapelle and Notre Dame. On the other side, you can see the Louvre. I mean, you're just right in the center of the city. So you have a wonderful view. And I think it's really worth it. You need to book things in advance because I think they organize that only in the weekend. But it's part of the thing. And I think it's a hidden gem, definitely. Not hidden because everyone sees it and knows it. But I think many
hidden
people,
in terms of knowledge about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, not hidden in terms of not seeing it, because as you said, it's in the neighborhood of Châtelet, which means it's in the literally in the center of the city, and it's where it gets really, really busy. But yeah, it's definitely a hidden gem when it comes to the fact that people don't really know much about it, and I'm very sure that among my friends and my entourage, very few of them know that they can enter.
Really worth it. If you go,
it has a 360 degree view, right?
Yes, you can see it in all the ways. It's really nice.
Wow.
Even if you pass by around, there's some streets that you randomly never really care. But if you check the name of the streets, it's written Rue Nicolas Flamel. Nicolas Flamel was, according to some of the legends, enhanced with Harry Potter, well known to be an
Yes.
alchemist, so sort of a magician at some point. But out of that, he lived in Paris historically, and it must have been one of the patrons of the Church of St. James of Saint-Jacques.
Okay.
So it's connected to it. And there's another street next to it called Rue Pernelle, and Pernelle was the wife of Nicolas Flamel.
Oh.
So it's part of the legends which is over there. They have lived there like 500 years ago. And they, according to the legend, would live even today because they found the secret for immortality. And they would live in another country now. But it's part of the secret which is related to the tower and the streets around. In some of the anecdotes related to, I would say, kind of the magic side of Paris, we were talking about an alchemist. I put in quotation marks because that's part of the legend. But there's not far from it the Bourse du Commerce, which today is the Pinault Foundation of Contemporary Art. This area is a historic area transformed because the building is 19th century, but it used to be the palace of Catherine de' Medici of the 16th century. So the queen, the last Valois queen, who was married to Henry II, lived there. And there is a column. If you go by Les Halles, which is the stores area, I would say you actually have an escalator going out of it. So many people go by there and never really look at it. But you just have a column which is on its own, not supporting anything. At the top of the column, you have a structure which is in metal. These columns, if you see on it, you have the double C of Catherine, and you actually have some of her symbols on it. And we used to say that it was Cosimo Ruggeri, who was her wizard, astrologer, some man who had magical power. She brought from Italy because she was from Florence when she married the French king. And people said this column has been created to see the future, see in the sky. So this sort of warlock would be at the top of the columns and see what would be next in the future. And some legends also say that whenever there's a stormy weather in Paris, if you see some shadow at the top of the columns, it is the trapped soul of this wizard that could be in it.
Yeah.
And it would be provoking some lightning and storms effects all around.
Wow. Thank you so much, Gisela, for these insights. It's really interesting. I really love these places. And not only in Paris, you can find hidden gems in restaurants, bars, landmarks, gardens, and so on. But you can also find some in one of the places that is the most used in Paris, which is the metros. Even in the Parisian metro network, you have a couple of places where it's like hidden and used for some very special purposes. I can first talk about the Saint-Maur station, which is a fictional station that does not exist in the actual Parisian metro network, but it's often used as a filming location in the film industry. It represents a typical Parisian metro station, so that's why it's used in series, in movies, etc., because it really represents what is the most typical in a Parisian metro station. Since it's fictive, it doesn't have a real location in Paris, so it depends on the needs of the production of the movie or the series. They can allocate the station to various areas in Paris. Just like that, there is also another station called Porte des Lilas. Well, Porte des Lilas, there is a station called Porte des Lilas, and there's also another station called Porte des Lilas Cinema, where it's really accessible for the public because it's next to the real one. It's in the 19th district. It's used for filming locations as well, to recreate metro scenes with very famous actors sometimes. Even Amélie Poulain was actually, filmed there. It's due to its characteristic architecture and conveniently location, because we know where Porte de Lilas is. It's very convenient. It's often chosen for these kind of shots because it provides also very authentic and recognizable backdrop to the metro kind of architecture and style, and it brings realism to the film production and to the final result of what the producer and production team wants to show. Yeah, even the metro, is hidden sometimes, not always very accessible. Yes, this is it. So this marks the end of our episodes. It's episode Paris Undercover Unveiled, Hidden Gems. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. Marie and Ghislain, live from La Défense, and Louis from Paris. Thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure welcoming you. Meanwhile, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and like the episode on the platform you're listening from, whether it's Anrami, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Deezer, Spotify, YouTube, or YouTube Music. You will also find all the information on my website, patricksayek.com/patbankscast. Please also send me some feedback on this episode, whether you have additional hidden gems to suggest, or if you have any comments on the hidden gems that we presented to you, please feel free to react. You can also send me some feedback on the podcast itself. In general, it will be a pleasure to read your comments. See you, Bangies!